Hello and welcome to the Woke is Broke podcast. I hope that you guys had a great Thanksgiving. I know I certainly did. I think I had on at least 10, 20, maybe 30 pounds. I don't know. But in any event, a small announcement. I'm actually moving. I'm moving out of Savannah. I am headed on down to Nashville, Tennessee. So I'm in the process of getting that ready and everything. So this week's episodes are going to be kind of shot like this a little bit while I'm kind of in the middle of doing everything that I got to do to make this move happen. In any event, let's roll on with the news. So with everything going on, the world on fire, and just shit getting ugly all the time, it might be easy to miss the kind of sneak attacks that the Democrats like to do behind closed doors. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the Equal Rights Amendment, or the ERA. Right now, the ERA was a proposed amendment for the Constitution of the United States that was proposed in 1972 during the Nixon era, right? Now, in order for an amendment to be added to the Constitution, it has to pass in Congress by two-thirds margin, and then 38 out of the 50 states have to ratify it, in order for it to be made law, right? So here's the thing. 30 states initially signed on to ratify this sucker back in the 70s, right? By 1978, another 5 had jumped on. They had 35 overall. Only problem was this thing had a deadline. They had 7 years to get 38 states to ratify this in order for it to become an amendment, right? They didn't have that, though, right? And the Democrat-run Congress at the time decided to extend the deadline all the way to 1982, and they still didn't have it. In fact, 5 of the states that signed on to ratify this amendment actually backtracked. They rescinded their ratification vote, right? And this is important. This ERA, this is important. Why do the Democrats want this so much? Well, basically, this amendment strikes down any law that was based on language using sex or gender, right? So basically laws regarding, gendered bathrooms, gendered dorms, gendered showers, gendered prisons, right? Women's shelters, right? It would allow them to basically strike down any pro-life law in all 50 states. That is what this thing seeks to do, right? To create equality by treating everyone exactly the same, regardless of gender. So bye-bye women's shelters, bye-bye women's bathrooms, bye-bye women's prisons. I mean, honest to God. And it doesn't matter that this thing fell apart 4 decades ago. It doesn't matter. They're still trying to do it. Right? They basically just said, what if we just pretend that deadline never happened? And what if we just pretend that those 5 states didn't rescind their support for this amendment? What if we just did that? Oh, well, in that case, I guess we can just keep campaigning and trying to get additional states to ratify it. And they did. They got the 3 that they needed, right? They got, Nevada ratified it in 2017. Illinois ratified it in 2018, and Virginia ratified it in 2020, last year. Only problem is 4 decades too late. Does it matter? No, they still consider it to be an amendment. Only, they think that somehow that this is acceptable, that this is totally acceptable, right? And it's not. It's absolutely not. But they trotted out the big guns. You know who they trotted out in support of this, right? Alyssa Milano, right? And it's important to remember, Alyssa Milano, she's a constitutional scholar. She's a judge. She's a state legislator. Oh, wait, she's not any of those things. She's a mediocre actress at best and an activist. All right. And yet the House Committee on Oversight and Reform held a hearing just a few weeks ago about the ERA. And they trotted out Alyssa Milano, who went out and said, the states have directed Congress to amend the Constitution, and now it is the duty of Congress and the administration to get out of the way and remove the arbitrary, unnecessary, and shameful deadline that was cynically imposed nearly half a century ago as a poison pill. The lack of constitutional protections for anyone who is not a cisgender man is a blemish on the very idea of Americanism. Okay, I'm going to need you to explain to me just what is it that a woman can't do today that a man can? We hear about all of these inequalities all the time. What are they? Are they the pay gap? We just found out, Google, right? They just put out this new company policy not too long ago in which they were trying to root out, a gender pay gap. Turned out Women were being paid more than men at that company. They had to sign out millions of bonuses in order to comp the men that were being underpaid, comparatively speaking, to women in the same positions at that company. All right, this idea that women make 80 cents on the dollar to every dollar that a man earns, it's complete and utter fiction. That number was cooked up by people who didn't take into account careers, professions chosen, number of years in the workforce, and numbers of hours worked, right? And they came up with that 20-cent discrepancy. It's an absolute load of crap. All right. But what are the other inequalities that we hear about all the time? Right. Honestly, what can a woman not do today that a man can do? Explain that to me, aside from being able to, lift heavy amount of weights. That's one thing a woman can't do that a man can do on average. God. Anyways, she continued. The framers failed us when they did not include women in the Constitution. Congress failed us when it added the deadline for ratification of the ERA. You, the members of this committee, have the opportunity and the obligation to fix the Constitution and stop it from failing us. And like I said, it's important to remember that Alyssa Milano, she's an expert. She knows exactly what she's talking about. She spent decades of her life studying the Constitution. No, wait, she didn't do anything. She didn't do any of that. And don't get me wrong. I'm not a constitutional scholar either. I'm not an expert on this. All right? And yet, we're supposed to pretend that Alyssa Milano is. We're supposed to pretend that she actually knows what she's talking about, which she absolutely does not, for no reason other than the fact that she is famous and that she's pretty. Democrats, honest to God, if you want to get somebody to advocate for this ridiculous bill that actually strips women of their rights, it doesn't give them rights. Treating them like a man doesn't give them rights. Okay? Just talk to the women out in the prisons out in San Francisco right now. Women who are getting knocked up because transgender women, meaning men, are being put into the prisons. And what do you know? Women prisoners are ending up pregnant. They're actually passing out condoms over at those prisons. That's happening right now. Right now. Do you think those women are more protected because they're being treated as equals of men? No, I don't think they are at all. What is abolishing women's shelters going to do? What is abolishing gendered bathrooms and gendered showers going to do? Nothing. It's going to leave women more exposed. But if you want to get an expert to talk about this ridiculous bill, maybe don't get the lady who doesn't know a thing about the meaning of the word hypocrisy, a woman who dressed up as one of the Handmaid's Tales characters during the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. It kept her mouth shut during the Andrew Cuomo sexual harassment fiasco. Maybe don't get the woman who says that women need to be able to abort their children after they are born, right? Maybe don't get somebody who doesn't know a freaking thing about what they are talking about, who's made famous for no reason other than her spot on political advice all of the time. And it just speaks to the arrogance of actors too. I'm an actor, okay? I'm an actor. I've been on a couple of TV movies. I've had a number of roles in stage plays. I enjoy acting. It's something I want to do more of. But even I recognize that there is something deeply unhealthy about living that kind of lifestyle. There's nothing real in waking up every day with absolutely no accountability, no responsibilities, being able to make millions of dollars, pretending to be other people, and being surrounded by people who tell you you're awesome and beautiful and pretty all of the time. That isn't real life. That isn't healthy. That isn't normal. All right? And yet when you live that life, it becomes real easy, real quick to just get this sense of entitlement, this arrogance that tells you that you are better than anyone else. You are better than everyone else, right? Because if everyone else was as smart and as brilliant as you, well, they would be living that life too. They would be living in a world where they don't have to worry about the things that they say, the things that they do, the stances that they take, right? Because there isn't any accountability for an actor. Not really. Do you think it matters to Alyssa Milano, who's in the White House? Really? Do you think that the fact that gas is like $1.50 more expensive today than it was a year ago is hurting her life in any kind of serious way? Do you think it matters whether the policies coming out of the White House are good for the country or bad for the country to somebody like Alyssa Milano? Or whether or not the right for, say, the Second Amendment is upheld, right? For somebody who has private security all of the time. Do you think that matters to her? Do you think it matters to any of these actors who get up there and act like they're some sort of moral arbiters, these geniuses of our times? who just rant and riff and say some of the most egregious and disgusting things all of the time and talk down to you, to me, and to anyone else who doesn't think like them. There's no accountability there. There's nothing healthy about that there. And we should stop the whole idolization of actors in general. All right? They are good. Well, some of them are good at their jobs. That's fine. And I think there is an importance to being able to create stories, compelling stories. And I think there is a real value in acting. And it's something that I enjoy doing greatly. But that does not make me a genius just because I do it. It doesn't make Alyssa Milano a genius just because she's mediocre and semi-successful. And honest to God, it's just the Democrats always scraping the bottom of the barrel, always propping up people as some sort of like altar that we have to worship at and take their word for it all the time. I mean, Democrats believe themselves to be gods. That's the bottom line. And it doesn't matter if they have to ramrod this ridiculous amendment into our Constitution that strips women of their rights. I mean, they can just shout women's rights, and it doesn't matter if the amendment itself actually removes women's rights. It doesn't matter if the states don't actually want this. They want it. That's what matters. And they're going to get what they want, at least in their eyes. Which is why it's up to us, to you, to me, to speak out, to say no, We're not going to let you just erase everything. We're not going to let you just dictate to us what is reality. Reality matters. There are things that are real. There are things that are not. There are truths that are present, and there are things that are untrue. All right? And Democrats don't seem to be capable of even understanding that. That's why they're out selling trillion-dollar bills saying that they cost nothing. Last I checked, a $3 trillion bill costs $3 trillion freaking dollars. But apparently that costs nothing. Apparently open borders, totally cool. That equals secure borders. No, secure borders equals secure borders. It's just a group of people that we're up against who are completely disconnected from reality and are up there like it's honestly like Donald Trump's little like sitcoms or like Celebrity Apprentice. They're up there like this, like they're just, stage actors or whatever, selling you something, rather than recognizing that they are in power to serve us, the American people. We are not here to serve them and their demands and their dictates. They are here to serve us. And they have decided that they don't care what the people that they are representing want. They want what they want. And whatever you want, be damned. Especially if it doesn't line up with what they're after. And the country will be a worse off place for it until they get voted out of office in the next year midterms. But in any event, that was the Democrats' little sneak attack that's going on right now. Definitely keep an eye out for that. And in any event, we will catch you later on. I am Joshua Stanko saying, stay safe, stay informed, and God bless. We'll catch you next time.